my colleague Maria Lindblad.
Hello everyone, nice to see you joining us here today for this live stream from Lund University. I work here together with Cecilia in the International Marketing and Recruitment team, and hopefully we'll be able to provide you with some good application tips if you're just getting ready to apply to Lund and to Sweden.
Yeah, exactly. And back in today we have our lovely colleague Audrey Savage as well, and she will be available in the chat to handle any questions you may have during the live event. So today, Maria, we will be discussing some top tips for a successful application when you're applying for bachelor's and master's studies at Lund University. And we encourage you to ask any questions you have in the chat during the event, and we will tend to them as we go. And as we mentioned, our colleague Audrey Savage will also be in the chat answering some questions. If you have very detailed questions about your application, however, we do recommend you to use our contact form. You can find it in the video description, and just shoot away your query and our team will be happy to answer your question in very detailed. So we also recommend you to stick with us till the end in this live stream, because we will have some bonus tips in the end for those of you joining till then. But to get started, we would actually love to know where everyone is joining from. So please use the chat and let us know where you're at right now. Usually we have a lot of students joining from all over the world when we have these live events. So
and we get applicants from really almost every country of the world, I would say, at least 170, 180 countries or so. So it's always great to see who's joining us live also at these events. We know the application period has only just started a couple of weeks ago, so some of you might just be in the process of starting to plan your application, while some of you might already have applied. So it's good to see a mix of people coming in, both in terms of the nationalities, but also where you're at in your application and in your thought process.
Exactly. We have a lot of countries represented here today, Maria. We have everything from Ghana and Mexico, Cyprus, the US, Mongolia, England, Ireland, Switzerland, Sri Lanka, Russia. Oh, it's really nice to see that so many people are joining us from all over the world. That's why we're here as well.
Welcome to everyone.
Yeah, really. And before we dive in, we just want to make sure you can hear us clearly and that you can see us clearly. If there are any issues, please let us know in the chat during the event, and we will try to fix that, of course.
Yes.
But Maria, let's jump into what we're here to talk about today.
Exactly.
So we're supposed to cover our top tips for a successful application for degree studies at Lund University.
Exactly.
And something that may seem obvious to most people, but some people actually forget about this, is to check the entry requirements before applying.
Exactly. And I mean, I kind of want to start out by just saying that applying to study either a bachelor program or a master's program at a university in Sweden and at Lund University is actually very simple, because there's only one website really where you need to make your application and where you find most of the information. But just as Cecilia mentioned, there are a few things to check that you really need to check before you start making your application. And for that purpose, you also need to visit both the application portal and the Lund University website. So we're going to walk you through this in a very detailed way so that you don't miss any important steps. But the first thing to know about the entry requirements is that there are basically 3 different levels of entry requirements and 3 different ways to look at this. And we're going to go through all 3 of them. So at the overall level, there is the general entry requirements. These are basically the entry requirements for any student anywhere in the world applying to any bachelor program or any master's program. These requirements you will find in the application at the application portal, which is universityadmissions.se. This is the same portal for all of Sweden, so that makes it easy. You can just go there and you can check entry requirements for bachelor studies or entry requirements for master studies, and that will explain those general requirements. In addition to those, there are specific entry requirements depending on the country that you're applying from, meaning the country where you previously studied. So if you are applying to a bachelor program, you need to check the country where you did your upper secondary or high school studies to make sure that you meet those specific requirements coming from that country. And that's simply because the education systems are different around the world, and we need to make sure that the level you're coming in at matches the level that you will be applying for studies for here at Lund and in Sweden. And if you are applying then to a master's, of course, you will check the country specific rules for the country where you studied your bachelor's degree. So depending on what you're applying to, you will go to the level just before that and check, okay, I studied my bachelor degree in India, for example. Can I apply to a master's in Sweden? So those are the country-specific entry requirements, the general entry requirements. But then there's one more.
An important one.
A very important one. So
one.
there is, as we said, there are three. And the third one is related to the specific program that you're applying to. So just as Cecilia said before, many students might not even think about this because they kind of, I finished high school or upper secondary school, I'm just going to apply to university now, and they just assume that they can apply to any program. But actually you need to check the entry requirements of the specific program that you are applying to, because each individual program will have their own entry requirements. And this is regardless of whether you're applying to a bachelor program or a master's program. They will all have their specific requirements. And these ones you will find on the Lund University website, which is, Cecilia?
lunduniversity.lu.se.
Yes. So find the program that you're interested in there, go to the section where it says entry requirements, and there you can check exactly what your program requires.
And we do have a few programs that are actually open to a wide range of academic backgrounds. Some programs even accept students with any academic background. But I would say in general, most of our programs require you to have studies in the related field, or at least courses in the related field.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes for both masters and bachelors, because even if you are applying to a bachelor program, you might need to have already taken, for example, more advanced mathematics or something like that.
Yeah.
And these requirements for bachelor's level specifically can be a bit tricky to understand because they're based on the Swedish upper secondary school system. So if you're trying to figure this out and you get stuck, feel free to contact us using the form there in the video description if you have questions on that. For master studies, though, it's a little bit more straightforward because the rules will basically say you need to have a bachelor degree in business, for example, and then it's quite clear if you have that or not.
And what would you recommend students to do if they're not sure if they meet the program-specific requirements due to perhaps courses being named in a different way in their home country, or their subject area being under a different faculty or a different subject area? This
can be a little bit tricky sometimes. I mean, for many students, it's just a matter of, trying to figure this out. And we'll talk about this later, but some of the programs also have additional documents where you get like a chance to explain a little bit more what you've actually covered in your degree. If you are still not quite sure, you can also upload with your application actually course descriptions to clarify that, yes, even though this course didn't have the exact name that you're requiring, it was actually the same topic. Yeah. And another thing which we will also get to in a moment here is the possibility to have a backup. So if you are not 100% sure, but you really want to apply to this program, it's not that much of a risk because you can add other programs as a backup if you would be ineligible in the end.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's another way.
We already have a question coming in regarding if this live stream will be available after the live stream has ended. And yes, it will be available on YouTube for you to go back to and review at any time. So if you don't have time to stick around for the full live session, you can always pause whenever you need to and go back at a later stage. But of course, we're thrilled to be here live and ready to answer most of your questions here today. Yeah. And once again, we're talking about our top tips for applying for degree studies at Lund University. And we've already covered the fact that you have to check your entry requirements. Extremely important. We do every year have quite a large number of students applying without having checked the entry requirements first. And that's sad news for you and sad news for us. So please do yourself a favor and check the requirements first.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the second tips.
Yeah.
And in Sweden, it's good to know that you actually don't have to know Swedish to study here. You don't have to be fluent in Swedish. You don't have to know a word of Swedish before coming here, because we are one of the countries in the world where most people actually speak English.
Yeah.
And it's such an international university, so wherever you go, English will be spoken as well. Having said that, there is a requirement to prove your English proficiency when applying for studies at Lund University.
Exactly.
So we always get tons of questions like, how can I prove my English proficiency? Can I prove my English proficiency through previous studies, or do I have to submit a test? Or what are your tips here, Maria?
Yeah, exactly. And this is actually a little bit a part of the first point, check the entry requirements, because of course meeting the English requirement is also part of the entry requirements. Yeah. Sometimes the general ones, sometimes the program specific ones, but it's always a part of the requirements, just as Cecilia said. And actually there are a few different ways in which you can prove that you meet the English requirement. The most common requirement for English in Sweden and at Lund University is something called English 6. This is not to be confused with IELTS 6, which many students believe is the same thing, but it's not. We'll clarify that. But to check if you meet this level, there is a page on the, again, national portal, universityadmissions.se, which explains all the ways in which you can prove your English proficiency. So if it's not there, then it's not valid. So a lot of students ask, but I have this test, or I have done this, or I have studied in English before. And then we just refer them right back to the page and we say, read this carefully and see if you can find a way here to prove your English. But basically there are three main categories of ways, if you will, to prove your English requirement, that you meet the English requirement, excuse me. One is through your previous high school or upper secondary studies. Some of you may have done such studies in an English-speaking country, Canada, US, UK, Australia, and so on. And even other countries where the upper secondary school is fully in English, you might actually have met this requirement already through those studies. Doesn't even have to be that they were in English, but that you studied English, of course, up to that level. But it's not for all countries, it's not for all upper secondary education, so do check on university admissions to make sure that you can use that. And if you can, then obviously you need to submit those documents. Even if you are applying to a master's, then you need the upper secondary school documents for the purpose of showing the English, your English level. The second way or category of ways to prove your English is through your previous university studies, if you have that. So if you're applying to a master's, for example, and you already have a bachelor degree, maybe that will be enough for you to show that you meet English level 6. But again, not because you studied in English, it's automatically the case that you can just use that. But for some of you who studied in some countries, again, English-speaking countries, around the world. There are many African countries on the list. There are the traditional Anglo-Saxon countries, but there are many countries on that list. So just check there if you can prove it through your bachelor degree or previous academic studies. And finally, the last sort of group of ways to prove your English proficiency level is through an international test. And this could be an IELTS, as we mentioned before, could be a TOEFL, could be Cambridge. There are a couple of other tests as well that we approve. So if you go to university admissions, find the English requirement page, you can see the exact scores you need if you're taking a test, and the exact countries from which we can accept other documents as well. So that was a long explanation, but just to be really clear about those requirements.
So to summarize, go to universityadmissions.se, check the country page for the countries in where you've studied to see if you can prove your English proficiency through previous studies. If not, you have to book an English test. And if you haven't booked an English test yet, but you know that you have to sit a test to prove your English, make sure to book your test as soon as possible, because we do need your proof of English language proficiency by the document deadline, which is...
That would be the 1st of February.
3rd of February
this year. Yeah.
Change it this year. That makes it
That's
tricky.
True. That's true. It does. If it falls on a weekend, it does move slightly.
No,
so,
but exactly. So make sure you check this early on and make a plan for how to prove your proficiency in English.
And I also want to say, just tying into what you were just saying there, that we often get emails from students saying, am I exempt? Or I don't have to prove English because I studied in English. But it's not the case. Like every single applicant needs to prove it. It's just a matter of how you need to prove it. So just as Cecilia was saying, if you can't prove it in another way, they need to take a test, but you can also see it the other way around. You have to take a test unless you can prove it in another way, but everybody has to prove that they meet the English requirement. And for those of you who meet it through your studies, it's enough to submit your transcripts correctly, so it's not like you have to do something extra to prove the English level, but just make sure that you have that covered by the deadline, 3rd of February.
Exactly. And also, once again, going back to the entry requirements, make sure you check the entry requirements for the programs you're applying to, because it could be the case that some programs require a higher level of English proficiency, in which case you will need to sit for a test no matter where you come from. So check the requirements, make sure you have proof of English proficiency.
In good time.
In good time, yes. We love to stick to our deadlines here, and they are strict, so yes.
Exactly.
And something else that is very important that we see students misunderstanding every year. They don't really understand the process, which is understandable. It's the fact that if you apply to multiple programs, you have to make sure you select your most preferred program as your priority and consider the other ones as backup options.
Exactly.
So to begin with, if you apply to a master's or bachelor's, how many programs can you actually apply to?
Yeah, that's the thing too. That's good that you brought that up. So that would be our tip number 3.
Yes, exactly.
So ranking your programs is the way it's worded on universityadmissions.se, but we would actually rather say choosing your program and your backup options, because it is really, like Cecilia said, you are only able to apply to really one master's program or one bachelor's program in all of Sweden. But then you can have a backup plan. So for master's, you can add 3 more backup programs. For bachelor, you can add 7 more backup programs. So what does this mean? It means that the program that you have selected, this is the one I want, this is the one I really, really want, you put that as your first choice. You submit, you find it on university admissions, you submit it, you say, this is the program I'm applying for. Then if you are maybe not sure if you will be accepted, if you're eligible, or you just like other programs as well, you wouldn't mind having them as a backup, then you can add a few more programs to your application. And that way you are covered if you would not be eligible or selected for your first choice. But it's really important to look at it that way rather than thinking, oh, I'm applying to these 4 programs and you just put them in a random order, because that will highly affect your chances of admission come selection day, because you would only be offered maximum 1 option in Sweden, and those will be in the order of your preference. So if you are selected, you're eligible, you're selected to your first choice, everything else below that is automatically deleted. Even if you were eligible, even if you would have been selected, they will be gone. So therefore, it's super, super important to put this in the right order. And the deadline to do that is
15th of January. So the same date as the deadline to actually apply. It's the same deadline as to select your programs and to rank them in your order of preference.
And sometimes we get questions like, well, should I add more programs, or does it make a difference if I add more programs? And it's really completely up to you. I mean, as we said before, if you're like worried, oh, maybe I'm not eligible or something, then yes, it's a good idea. But if you just like the one program, this is the one I want at Lund University, I'm not interested in anything else in the whole country, okay, don't add anything else. So it's completely up to you. But just remember that the order there is super important.
Yeah, exactly. And also good to know, once again, that you cannot change the ranking order after the 15th of January. Every year we get students realizing this way too late, and they ask us after 15th of January if they can now change their ranking.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to actually delete programs from your application, but it's really 15th of January is the deadline that counts. Yeah.
And this will affect other things too. I mean, admission results, scholarship applications, other things. So it really is important to prioritize the order there. Yeah.
And in terms of deciding which program they really want to study, like if they have a hard time deciding which program they want to pick first.
Well, that's
researching, of course.
Yeah, that is a tricky one. Well, the first thing I would do is make sure that you've checked the entry requirements, which was our first tip, to make sure that you're actually eligible for all the programs, because you don't want to sort of waste an application. But then it's more about research, and what you really want, what you're thinking ahead in terms of your future career, what are the courses you can look through at our website. You can see the specific courses that make up the program to see what am I most interested in. So it's basically just about researching, talking to current students. We have a ton of student ambassadors that are available through our website as well. You can chat with them there, log into the Unibuddy system where you chat with them and ask them questions. How are these courses? How is the study load in this program? Will I enjoy it if this is the career option I'm looking for? And so
what
they
are
can
the
also
professors
be very
like?
helpful.
What are they can answer any kinds of questions related to that.
Exactly.
So they're a really good resource.
Yeah. But it can be hard, absolutely. We have 140 international programs, 10 international bachelor's, and 130 international master's programs. So there's a lot to choose from, for sure. So it can be tricky.
Yeah, do your research. Start early.
Yeah.
I can see we already have quite a few questions coming in about documents, and I can see Audrey attending to most of them as well. Of course, we will jump into questions soon as well. But once again, we're here to cover some top tips for applying to Lund University master's and bachelor's studies. And so far, we talked about checking the entry requirements, proving your English proficiency, and ranking your program selections by the 15th of January. And I feel like we're ready to jump in on our fourth tips.
Which is all about documents.
As
it happens.
Some of the questions you have is related to program-specific documents, which is a very important part of the application. We have some bonus tips regarding program-specific documents at the end of the live stream. But Maria, let's dig into the documents, because that can be a jungle for some applicants.
It's still simple, but there are things we don't want you to miss. And just as when we talked about the entry requirements, where we said that there are general entry requirements, there are country-specific entry requirements, there are program-specific entry requirements, exactly the same thing goes for the documents. So there are general official documents, also called, that you can find on university admissions, where they describe exactly what you need. And this is basically, very simply put, your transcripts from the studies that you're using in your application. Again, if you're applying to a bachelor, that would be your upper secondary school transcripts. If you're applying to a master's, that would be your bachelor transcripts in general. Your diploma, if you have already graduated. If you have not, and you're applying to a master's, you can submit another document showing that you are enrolled and due to finish soon, before you start the master's. If you are applying to a bachelor's, though, please be aware that we do need your final diploma by the document deadline. You cannot apply while you're still finishing those studies. We can get to that in a moment, but just to mention the official documents, transcripts, diplomas, or a proof of enrollment if you haven't finished your bachelor degree. It's basically a scan of your passport, and that's more or less it, you could say, for the official documents. But then we also usually include the proof of English that we talked about as well before. So if you are taking an English test, or you have other proof that are not just your transcript, then you would need to submit that as well as a part of those official documents. So that's one category. Then when it comes to the country-specific rules, it might be that you need to have not only a specific type of degree, but also there might be rules regarding how you can submit your official documents. So for example, in most cases, students can simply scan and upload their documents, but then for some countries there may be other rules that say your school must send the transcripts directly, or you must send hard copies through post, or you must have specific stamps in order for your transcripts to be valid, things like that. So there are some country-specific instructions for the official documents as well, so don't miss these, because that will just make the whole document invalid. So if you upload your transcripts and you are not allowed to, then we won't consider them. So this is very important. And then, as Cecilia mentioned, the third thing, the program-specific documents, and this is for master's applicants specifically. So if you are applying to a master's program, most of our master's programs do require specific documents. This could be something like a statement of purpose, a CV, recommendation letters. And if they are required, you will find those in the apply section on the Lund University website on the program webpage. So they will list specifically, there is a heading that says program specific documents, and there we describe exactly what you need to submit with your application.
Yeah.
So that was an overview of the documents, at least. Yeah.
So
and
we covered the general documents required, your transcripts, diploma, the program-specific documents, proof of English proficiency, of course, as well, an ID document. And a question we receive every year is, do I have to submit all my documents at the same time? Like, do I have to wait to submit my documents until I have everything ready to submit?
Yeah, exactly. And the answer is no. So the document deadline, as you learned before, is the 3rd of February. Yes. So as long as your application is complete by the 3rd of February, that's all that matters. With a little caveat we'll get to in a moment, but that's all that really is vital for your application. So you don't have to wait. If you, for example, have your transcripts ready now, but you want to take some time to write your statement of purpose, that's totally fine. You can still upload or submit in whatever way you're allowed to according to the rules, your transcripts, and then submit another document a month later or 3 weeks later, as long as we have everything by the deadline. And people also ask the order of different things, just like you're saying, oh, but I can submit my passport, but I don't have my transcripts, or can I pay the application fee, submit documents? So just so you know, the order of these things isn't important. The important thing is that it's complete on time.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's a really common question, and I understand why they ask it as well. It's
absolutely,
and it's good that you ask questions as well. And what if I apply and I submit the wrong document? Can I take it away? Should I resubmit a new document? How should I go about it?
Yeah, this is also something we get questions about. Oh, I want to update my statement of purpose or something. And no, you cannot actually, this is for legal reasons, you cannot actually delete any document that you have already submitted. But no panic if you have submitted the wrong document or you uploaded and then you went to check the country-specific rules where it says, do not upload. Don't worry, as long as you also submit them correctly on time, that's totally fine. And we will, of course, disregard any ones that were wrongly submitted, or if you have updated, we will look at the most recent one. So no panic there.
And the same thing applies if you have applied previous years as well and already submitted documents to your application. The documents you've submitted in the past will still be available to university admissions and to Lund University. So for the official documents, as long as they were correctly submitted the first time, there is no need for you to resubmit them, as long as you apply using the same account.
Yeah, I was just going to say, use the same account though, because otherwise...
I'm not going to miss that important detail.
And you should only have one account either way. So that's And I wanted to say something else about the program-specific documents, but I guess we will get to that a little bit later as well as the bonus. But what I wanted to say was that we often get questions where students say, well, I'm applying to one program and 3 backup programs, and they all require a statement of purpose. Do I really have to submit 4 statements? And the answer is yes.
Yes, and
and we'll get to the details, but
It's important. Program-specific documents is really an important part of the application if the program you apply to require program-specific documents. And we do have quite a few questions about this, which is why we're going to cover this more in detail at a later stage.
Yeah, but I want to say one more thing. Sorry, I did say that earlier, but because it's so important, I want to say that one more time. This is only for master's applicants when we're talking about program-specific documents. So for bachelor applicants, we will only look at your upper secondary transcripts, basically your grades. That is the only thing that's going to matter, with a little exception for our programs in music and art, where there are actually additional steps like auditions and portfolio submission. But in general, no extra documents, only official documents for bachelor's applicants, but in most cases, extra documents from master's applicants, just so we've said that again.
But you will find this out if you go to the program pages for the programs you're applying to and check the program-specific documents tab. So just make sure you do that. And moving on, I think we should cover our fifth tip.
Yes. So we've been through 4 or 5 tips already.
Yeah, exactly. But we do have the bonus tips as well. So tips number 5 would be regarding the application fee or proving your EU/EEA citizenship status.
Exactly. So when you apply to Lund University or any university in Sweden, you need to do one of 2 things. Either you have to pay an application fee, so almost all non-EU EEA students need to pay an application fee. I said almost because some of you might be living in Sweden and have some other exemptions, but in general you need to pay an application fee, and that is in order for your application to be processed. So this is really a processing fee for the national organization, universityadmissions.se, to process your application. If you are an EU or EEA citizen, then you instead need to prove that you have this status, meaning submit a scan of your passport so that we can see that this is an EU citizen, and therefore they do not need to pay the application fee because there's other funding for those applicants. So why is this important? Well, frankly, your application is not going to be processed at all until any of this has happened. And this is actually really, really important because many students submit all the documents early. They read about it and they, oh yeah, I want to submit my transcripts. I want to get everything done. But then they hold off because they want to be like, oh, I'm not 100% sure I'm done with my selection. So they hold off with paying the fee until maybe January. But that means that there was really no point in submitting the documents at all because nothing will happen. Nothing will happen until the fee has been paid. And we really, really strongly recommend doing this early on because that means that university admissions in Sweden can start processing your official documents. So remember a moment ago we were talking about, should I submit everything on time, at the same time? And we said, no, you don't have to, as long as it's complete by the deadline. Well, this is true, but if you submit your official documents early, pay the application fee or prove that you are exempt from the fee early on, university admissions can start processing that, and they will actually give any feedback if there is something wrong or missing related to these official documents. So for example, you missed to submit the transcripts correctly, or there was a missing stamp on the back of your diploma, or anything like that is wrong with the official documents, you will have time to get that feedback and correct it before the deadline. And this is super important. So get those official documents in early, pay the application fee or prove the exemption, and then you can work on other documents later on. But we see all too many students who do this at the last minute, and by the time they get the feedback, the deadline has passed, and then you have no chance of correcting it anymore. Our deadlines here in Sweden are very, very strict when it comes to the application. So, I mean, we have students getting feedback on the 4th of February saying, sorry, we can't take your transcripts, and then you're out. Then you're out of the whole selection. So please try to submit these early and get that fee in or the exemption proof in. Yeah.
And of course it can be confusing as an applicant that you receive this feedback after the document deadline and you can't do anything about it. But once again, that's why we encourage you to complete these steps as soon as possible. And it's good to mention that you only have to pay the application fee once, even if you apply to multiple programs, and even if you in your application apply to programs at different universities in Sweden. The application fee is not paid to the universities, it's paid to university admissions in Sweden for processing of your general documents, which is your transcripts and your diploma.
Yeah.
So they are the ones assessing your general documents, and they are the ones requesting or requiring the application fee, not the universities.
Yeah.
And that's why we as a university can never allow exemptions, application fee
good that you
waivers.
mentioned.
Because once again, there are a few students who are exempt from the application fee, but if you're not, you have to pay. We cannot give fee waivers.
No, but as you say, there's one fee for the whole country, so it's still a good deal.
But it's good to be aware that you have to pay the application fee for the application to be processed.
I feel like we're being very strict, but I think that's good because we really want you to be successful with your application. And if you just follow all these 5 tips that we have, or these 5 steps that we've talked about now, you're already like 90% there to make a fully successful application. So,
exactly. So I'm quickly going to summarize the 5 top tips we shared. First of all, check the entry requirements. Never apply for studies or a program you're not eligible for. It will save you a lot of time if you don't. Ensure you have accepted proof of English language proficiency. Rank your program selections in order of preference by the 15th of deadline. Submit all of your supporting documents by the document deadline, 3rd of February. And make sure you pay your application fee or prove your EU/EEA citizenship status by the document deadline, 3rd of February.
Yeah, I think there was one thing we should mention again, just now that you mentioned the 2 dates, because this confuses people a lot too.
Yes.
So 15th of January is one deadline, 3rd of February is another deadline. So by the 15th of February, 15th of January.
Now you're getting confused, Maria.
Just confusing people more now. By the 15th of January, you need to have selected your program and any backup programs that you want to apply to.
Yes.
And you need to have, as Cecilia said, also... no, not paid the fee. Sorry.
The supporting documents and the English proficiency.
No, but that's by the 3rd of February. I was just talking about the 15th of January.
Rank your program selections.
Yes. You have to submit your program selections by the 15th of January, and then you have until the 1st of February to submit your documents and to pay the application fee. Sorry, now we got...
3rd of February, Maria. I think you should get some coffee now. Once again, this is confusing. Okay. We usually have the 1st of February. This year is the 3rd of February, so you're excused. I'm excused.
Thank you.
It's fine. We also get confused sometimes.
Yeah.
But moving on, Maria,
yes.
We actually promised to share some of our bonus tips. And of course, we have to do that.
We do.
First thing, though, should we check for some questions, perhaps? I can see Audrey is still responding to most questions here. We do have a question about, can you apply to more than one master program at the same university?
Absolutely. You can do any combination that you want, as long as it's maximum 4 programs. So it could be 4 at the same university, could be 1, could be 2, could be 3, could be at 4 different universities. But remember what we said, you're applying to 1 with a backup plan. So just to be super clear about the order there really matters. But yes.
Yeah. We also have someone here saying they are applying for both a bachelor's and a master's. Does that mean they have to pay the application fee twice?
No. So the application fee is per semester. So you basically, if you apply and then you apply in some later application round or something like that, then it's still valid for that semester. But if you apply to both a master's and a bachelor's, then of course you have the backups for each of those. So they are not connected. It's a bit technical now, but those are separate application rounds. So then you can have a backup of bachelor's and a backup of master's.
Yeah. We once again have a few questions also about applying in the last year of your bachelor's. So someone here saying they will graduate sometime in June And do they have to wait with making an application? Do they have to wait a year for applying, or can they apply this year?
Yeah, so if you're applying to a master's, you can generally always apply even if you're in the final semester or final year of your bachelor's, but you need an extra document. So you need to submit all the transcripts that you have so far and an extra document basically showing your status of enrollment, that you are still enrolled and you will finish in June, which is still in good time before starting the master's. So most of the master's programs do accept this, so you can still apply. But I want to say again to those of you applying to a bachelor's, though, this does not work. If you are applying to a bachelor's, we need your final high school or upper secondary school transcripts by the document deadline, 3rd of February.
Yes. Good,
Yes.
Maria. Now we're getting it.
Practicing.
Practicing, yeah. Actually, we have tons of questions about the program-specific documents.
Yes, all right.
So we did promise you to jump into some bonus tips, and one of the bonus tips is definitely regarding the program-specific
Yes.
documents.
Yeah.
So, Maria, most of our master's programs do require some program-specific documents.
Yeah.
It can be reference letters, statement of purpose, a CV.
Yeah.
And there are a few very specific questions here, so let's jump into those.
Yeah.
Are there any templates to use for the program-specific documents?
For many programs, yes, but not necessarily for all. So this is what we talked about before when we talked about how important it is to check the specific rules for the specific program. So there's not one size fits all, unfortunately. That would make life easier. But you need to go to lunduniversity.lu.se, find the specific program you want to apply to, go to the apply section. There is a heading that says program-specific documents, and there you will find the specific instruction for that program. And if they have a template, for example, an applicant summary, some of them call it, or a statement of purpose, motivational letters, there are many different words and documents, they will have a link or like a PDF file or a page where they describe exactly how you need to structure this document. And you need to follow those instructions. And please make sure you do that. Do not, under any circumstances, type up your own statement of purpose and just submit that and think that that's going to be fine. You need to follow the instructions of the specific program that you're applying to. And many of them, yes, have not only templates, but also specific questions they might want you to answer.
Yeah.
So very important to check that.
And this ties into one of the other very common questions we always receive, and that is, you briefly mentioned it before, but if you apply to multiple programs and they all require a statement of purpose, can you just submit the same statement of purpose to all programs? And if the answer is no, I know it's no, can you explain why we can't do it that way?
Yeah, and this really is the bonus tip that we want to say, because that is a common sort of mistake, or maybe some applicants get lazy perhaps, or they just write a statement about, this is great, I've worked on this, I'm happy with that, copy and just submit to every program. But you can't do that because, like we said, they all have specific instructions. But not only that, even if the instructions are the same, they want your statement for that specific program. They want to understand, why are you interested in this program in particular? What in your background matches this program? How can you contribute to this program? What are you hoping to take with you from this program to your future career? What relevant experiences do you have that matter when you're going to study this program? So basically explaining the mutual benefit of you studying this program. And that is program specific. That's not something you can write and that will match 5 programs or 3 programs. So it is really important to write it specifically for that program. And please note that it weighs quite heavily in the selection process. Many of the master's programs put as much as 30% of the weight in the selection to these documents. So it's very, very important. And I would go so far as to say that for some of our most competitive programs, you don't even have a chance to be selected if you have missed a program-specific document. So it really is super important. Now, that does not mean go to ChatGPT and try to get it to write the best one for you. That is not recommended. That is quite easy to see through. It's one thing to have it check for typos or something, but don't let it write it for you, because they will see that it's not from your heart.
Yeah, no, that's a really important one, really, because we know how many people use that today for the not the good reasons as well, or not the
I mean, it's fine
reasons.
to use a tool to help you sort of improve certain things, but this is not a situation where you want to give your whole life, your future over to an external tool.
And we also always have students wanting to submit documents that may not be requested by the program. They can say like, okay, so the program I'm applying to is not asking for any program-specific documents. Can I still submit a statement of purpose and a CV and reference letters? And well, we recommend them not to. You should only submit documents that are actually asked for by the programs you're applying to. The other documents are generally not considered and not part of the selection criteria. So only submit documents asked for, follow the instructions, make sure you target your program-specific documents to the program you're applying to, and that will have you covered.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and I think spamming the system isn't going to help to just upload your whole life story. Basically, the only exception would be like we talked about in the beginning, if there's something you need to clarify regarding the entry requirements or like a course description or something. Sure, by all means. But other than that, don't submit recommendation letters that nobody has asked for or statement of purpose if it's not requested. Yeah.
And if you are interested in knowing more about the selection criteria for the programs you're applying to, once again, go to the program pages. Perhaps Audrey, you can be kind enough to share the link to the program pages so everyone has access to those. Go to the program page for the programs you're applying to, check the tab requirements and selection, and you will learn more about what the program based their selection on. And that will give you sort of an idea, at least, of how important the statement of purpose or the program specific documents are in relation to other things they are considering when they select their students.
Yeah.
Some
more bonuses?
Some more bonuses for sure. If you have a hard time deciding what program at Lund University you are most interested in and which one is the best fit for you, you briefly talked about that as well, but we do have a lovely team of student ambassadors from all over the world that are eager to chat with you at any time. On our website, you can find some 80 student ambassadors representing different programs at the university. You can decide which student ambassador you would like to chat with. So go ahead and find a student ambassador matching either the program you're interested in or the country you come from if you want to ask questions about what it's like to study here at the university as a student from that particular country. And you can ask them about the program content and see what type of education or what type of program it is, what lectures are included in the program, what the professors are like, and hopefully that can give you a better idea if that is a program that will suit your interests and your ambitions. Yeah. So do take that as an opportunity to really find out more about the programs you're interested in. That's a really important tip.
I feel like I want to say again to those of you who might have joined a little bit late and so on, both what we're talking about, but also clarify the deadlines one more time since we have now mixed that up. I have mixed it up several times. But just for those of you joining, we are giving some tips here for those of you who are interested in applying to either a bachelor program or a master's program at Lund University. I don't think we actually clearly said that we are open for applications, but we are. The application round opened mid-October and is currently ongoing. So you can jump in at universityadmissions.se and start your application at any time. You need to do that before the 15th of January. By then you need to find and select and submit the programs that you want to apply to. You can select one program, but you can have a backup plan. So if you want to apply to a master's program, you can apply to your favorite master's and then add a backup of up to 3. Master's program, if you're applying to a bachelor, you select your favorite and then you can have up to 7 backup programs. All of this you need to do by the 15th of January. Then you have until the 3rd of February to submit all the supporting documents, both official documents, general documents, and any program-specific documents if you're applying to a master's, and to pay the application fee or approve your exemption. But as we mentioned earlier, please don't leave that until the last minute. It's ideal if you can submit at least your official documents early and pay the fee or prove your exemption so that they can start processing those at the national level. So that was just a little bit of a recap.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. We need some recaps as well.
Yeah.
Yes, just thinking if we have some more questions. Once again, Audrey is tending to most of the questions here. And let's see here. Some students are wondering about applying for bachelor studies, once again, if they're in high school still.
Yeah. So again, we mentioned that a few times now, but it can't be said enough because we had so many questions about that. We do need your final upper secondary or high school transcripts by the application deadline, or by the document deadline, I should say, which is the 3rd of February. And we know that many of you who are in high school, in upper secondary school, are probably graduating in May or June. Unfortunately, that means you cannot apply in this ongoing round that is open right now. The deadline is simply too early for you. So you will have to wait to a later application round. If you are an EU citizen, the bachelor programs will open again later in spring. You can apply in that round. If you are a non-EU citizen, though, you would have to take a gap year and wait simply because the next round is too late for you in order to make it here to Lund in time. But unfortunately, you cannot apply if you are not graduating now, basically, and can have the final documents there by the 3rd of February.
Yeah. Another bonus tips we do want to share with you is to check your email regularly, check your inbox, check your spam folder even, as unfortunately sometimes our emails may end up there. So make sure you check your inbox because we will be sending you information if and when you apply to Lund University. And the information we send you will cover everything we've talked about here today. We are very excited to help you make a correct and complete application for studies. So we do communicate with you regularly through emails. We do offer events regularly as well, such as this live stream here today.
Yeah.
So do check your inbox for any emails from us.
Yeah, exactly. Both from us and from University Admissions if you've started your application. And also just for tips as well. Tips and links to both relevant information, that you need, and also for fun activities and student life events, and as well as our upcoming webinars and streams.
Yeah. We only have a few minutes left of this stream here today. Do want to say thank you to Audrey, who's been back and answering most of your questions. If you still have thoughts and questions about the application process or about Lund University and the different programs we offer, please find our contact form in the video description. We are quite a big team of international marketing managers who are happy to help you through the application process. So just fill out the form and shoot away your question, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. It's always easier to answer very specific application questions through email, as we can then provide the useful links.
Yeah, and I think even if you don't have a specific question right now, it's good to just make sure that we have your contact information and we can invite you to future events, like we said, and make sure that you get these kind of tips and information that you need moving forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if you did enjoy this session, we also recommend you to stay tuned for our upcoming live stream on 11th of December, where we will cover the most common application mistakes when you apply for bachelor's and master's studies, and of course, how to avoid those mistakes.
Yeah, and if you follow the top tips today, you won't make any mistakes.
Exactly. So that doesn't apply to the ones joining us here today, of course.
Exactly.
No, but we do have live events coming up as well, and also in the video description you will find a link to our website where you can find all our upcoming events. So take a look there and book a spot for the events you want to join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's it as well.
I think it's time for a fika.
A fika?
Yeah.
What is a fika, Maria? What is a fika?
It's a Swedish thing.
A Swedish thing.
It's the first word you'll learn when you get to Sweden.
Oh yeah, that's a guarantee.
Yeah. It's a very essential coffee break that we have a couple of times a day, sometimes more, where you have a hot drink, usually it could be a cold drink, but usually it's coffee or tea, and with something sweet as well.
Do we have something sweet?
I sure hope so.
Oh, I actually did bring something sweet here today.
Cinnamon rolls.
Cinnamon rolls, typical
Yes,
Swedish treat.
perfect for fika.
Yeah. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We hope you have a great day, and we hope to see you next time. Please, if you have questions, once again, use our contact form found in the video description. You can also continue to comment on the live stream if you have any questions, and we will pick those up.
Thank you so much, everyone, and best of luck.
Yes, best of luck with your application, and see you soon.
Bye.